And one day I remember I was going to a market. Inaitwa Mugwadhe. The market itself. And nikitoka market, nilikuwa na commentate football kama Ali Salimanga. Mama mmoja wa church akanisikia. Akaniambia. I saw her smiling. Amesimama kwa barabara. Akaniangalia. Ninaendelea kucommentate. She was smiling. Mama Maina. Akaniambia. Haya. She said in Kikuyu, "You'll be a great radio presenter." I was in class 6. "You'll be a great radio presenter." In Kikuyu. I was so excited. Ni wa church kwetu ni wa mama anaheshimiwa. Wao walikuwa na pesa, walikuwa na magari. Ushagua ulikuwa na gari. In the 90s. I was so happy. That is 1996. That thing, those few words, one line changed my life. And from then on, I wanted to be a radio presenter. Nothing else. Radio presenter. My name is Frederick Muitiriri. I'm born again. I work in the media. That is a space where I have grown into. I'm a former police officer. Served in the Kenya Police for 3 years, between 2004 and 2008. Then I quit, went back to school to study media. I went to a primary school called Mugwadhe. And so eventually I had to go to Bavuni, where it's a day school. Naenda shule, narudi nyumbani kwa madhe. So I grew up in the village, and I was an ardent listener of a radio station called KBC. Nilikuwa napenda radio sana. Why? Because I grew up listening to radio from my grandfather. I don't have a father, so my grandfather loved radio. So every day at 6, akifika, radio inaashwa. And would listen to matangazo all the way to saa 3 ya usiku. And I loved that. I would hear kina Edward Kadilo, sijui how every Saturday I'm listening to Ali Salimanga, Jacoyo Sylvester commentating football. So nani nilikuwa napenda football sana. So tulikuwa na karedio kadogo. Tunakaa kwa masikio hivi. Kunanyesha unasikiza tu radio matangazo. And so around class 6 nikaanza kujifunza kucommentate football. And one day I remember I was going to a market. Inaitwa Mugwadhe. The market itself. And nikitoka market, nilikuwa na commentate football kama Ali Salimanga. Mama mmoja wa church akanisikia. Akaniambia. I saw her smiling. Amesimama kwa barabara. Akaniangalia. Ninaendelea kucommentate. She was smiling. Mama Maina. Akaniambia. Haya. She said in Kikuyu, "You'll be a great radio presenter." I was in class 6. "You'll be a great radio presenter." In Kikuyu. I was so excited. Ni wa church kwetu ni wa mama anaheshimiwa. Wao walikuwa na pesa, walikuwa na magari. Ushagua ulikuwa na gari. In the 90s. I was so happy. That is 1996. That thing, those few words, one line changed my life. And from then on, I wanted to be a radio presenter. Nothing else. Radio presenter. By the time I'm getting to Form 2, it was cemented by Kiss 100. I was an ardent listener to radio. I'd wake up early in the morning at around 5, watch TV. For the grace of God, tulikuwa na TV, black and white. Na watch CNN kidogo, Larry King. Alafu 5:30 hivi naanza kusikiza radio. Nyambanesa hizo ndio alikuwa Walter Mongare, alikuwa big time wakiwa na Karo. So nasikiza mpaka kitu 6:30, natoka naenda shule, by 7 niko chuo. So by Form 2, I then decided I have to be inside that radio. So that's how I decided to be in the media. So one day in 2004 September, grade yenye nilikuwa nayo ingeniruhusu tu nifanye certificate. So I saw mahali hiyo grade imeandikwa Mombasa Polytechnic. You can do media module 1, module 2. I don't know what those things were. It was 49,000 shillings. Nikapelekea mahali nikamwambia, nimeona hapa naweza enda huku. I actually applied. But on telling my mother it was 49,000 shillings, Hey, Fred, hiyo nawe. Eh? I cannot afford. Cannot afford. You have 2 brothers behind you. I cannot. I applied, but when I told my mother and she told me she cannot afford, I told God, hiyo barua isikuja, itaniumiza sana. I told God, just give me a job. Nitafute pesa zangu, nijipeleke shule. That's what I did. By the grace of God, 2004, November 25th, nikaenda kutafuta kazi ya polisi. That same day nikachukuliwa kazi ya polisi, nikaingia Kiganjo 2004, December 17th, train for 9 months, train another 1 month na GSU, nikatumwa Isiolo. I worked there for 3 years. And then ile grade yangu, so I couldn't get 49,000 shillings. So I told myself, I thought school fees ya hiyo kitu kusomea ni 49,000. So me, I was saving for 49,000 shillings. My salary was 11,000. So every month I would save 3,000. Mahali iliongea 49,000, kaanza kutafuta shule. I knew I had enough money to take myself to school. Na nakumbuka that time nilisave ikafika ilikuwa 52. By that time ilikuwa 50, nikajiambia, this is the time. I have to go back to school. Juu nilikosa tu 49,000 shillings. These are my shares za sako ya polisi yenye nimekuwa nikisave. Nikaona zimefika hiyo pesa. Sasa this is the time. So I applied Kenya Institute of Mass Communication to study certificate. Na nikachukuliwa. Na mimi ni nani? Nikalipa. Nikatoa pesa yangu, nikalipa school fees. Nikaanza kutafuta transfer kutoka Isiolo. Nikatafuta transfer. OCPD akaniambia hiyo ni wenda wazimu. Hatuwezi kupiga transfer uende Nairobi. Wewe unapotelea kichaka. Rudi kichaka. Pata shule huko kwenye huko, soma huko. Huko ni high school peke yake. Huko. And so after 3 months kutafuta transfer, they frustrated me a lot. I decided. I wanted to work as a police officer for 12 years. 12 years because that's the time you're allowed to retire, the first batch of retirement. You can only retire after 12 years. So I decided, that's it. I quit. And that's how I quit Kenya Police. Went back to school to study a certificate. Joined Kenya Institute of Mass Communication in 2007 September. But I cannot come fully because I'm still a police officer. So nakuja nasoma, my OCS was very kind. Rest in peace. It was called Godwin Binale. He was very kind. So akaniambia, wewe enda, nikisikia kuna shida kidogo nitakwambia urudi, because mimi nilikuwa kwa kichaka na kwa kazi. Nilikuwa station nilikuwa naitwa Sericho Police Station. It's in Isiolo but 220 kilometers from Isiolo town. So akaniambia, you go, unasoma kidogo, unarudi. So that's what I was doing. For the 3 months nilikuwa natafuta transfer. That's what I was doing. Eventually when I resigned, my letter ilikuwa accepted the following year, February 2008. So now nimeachana na kazi kabisa, nimekuja Nairobi. Sina watu Nairobi. I started staying with friends. I stayed with one friend, akachoka na mimi after 3 months. Niamka asubuhi moja akaniambia, "Dibu, naona tulikuwa tumetoka na yeye Isiolo. He was an AP in a station that was close to us. Amepigwa transfer, amekuja Nairobi, very close to our college, South P. So he's the one who housed me for 3 months. After that, my friend called Bob Karuga Mwangi, tukajuana, kumbe ni wa kwetu Ushago. Babake alikuwa na sister yake anaishi Githurai. So somehow we found each other, eventually we found each other. Tukaenda Githurai kwa sister ya baba yake. That is where I stayed in my schooling years. All those 3 years that I was in college and 1 more year because I started with a certificate. I had to bridge. I didn't get an internship. I started volunteering with USAID. And because it was under a program called Behavioral Change Communications, about communication, the college, for you, KMC is very strict. If you umeingia na certificate, for you to do a diploma, you have to bridge your 1-year internship. Mandatory. So I studied for 4 years. I did my certificate, bridged for 1 year with USAID as a behavioral change communication facilitator. Went back to do my diploma for 2 years. For me, most people 3 years direct diploma. For certificate ni 4 years. So mimi nilipiga miaka yangu 4, but I never got an internship. My first internship nilipata nikiwa second year. Actually my first internship nilipata nikiwa third year. Na I did broadcast journalism. Sikupata ya broadcast, nilipata ya camera. So I'm a camera operator. Nilienda mahali kunaitwa Ken TV. Ken TV tulikuwa nafanya productions za TV shows. Tulikuwa natumwa moja K24, moja KTN, wengine Citizen TV. So that's how I got my first internship, and that's what I was doing, camera work. Eventually, I joined KTN as an intern, again, as an STO, studio technical operator, cameraman again. And that is where a person by the name of Anthony Ndiema heard my voice, told me, "Guy," I was an intern at KTN. "Guy, you have a good voice. Go try radio." He's the head of programs. I didn't know at Radio Maisha. He told me, "Go try radio." And then a guy by the name of Paul Baraza heard my voice, sent that voice to the radio editor. Radio editor returned and told him, "Record him again. Don't edit anything. Send it to me." In 1 month, I had a job. That is how I started working with Radio Maisha, through a guy called Paul Baraza and Anthony Ndiema, by the grace of God. I always wanted to do radio. There is no day in my life I thought. I used to watch the likes of KTN and NTV back in the day. I would admire those guys. They're doing wonderful. Oh, this is nice. And I would pretend to be like a TV presenter. But I come from a place where I was speaking Kikuyu all my life. But I loved the languages. I never thought even one day I'll ever do TV. I knew as a radio person. So for me, first of all, I didn't start radio with Radio Maisha. In college, hii kuongea yangu mingi, the lecturers, there was a radio station there called ECN Radio. The lecturers wakasikia, naongea sana, Fred, hanyamazi, kijana hanyamazi. So they said there was an interview for the radio station ya Kole inaitwa ECN, but then it was 104.7. So tulikuwa tuna broadcast Nairobi, Machakos, Kajiado, Kiambu, Murang'a. So so they called us for audition. Me, I auditioned for news. And then when I went there, those guys eventually gave me a show. Breakfast show. So I did that for 6 months. After that, I went to a radio station in Nakuru called Hero Radio. Then kikaniramba, pesa yenye tuliagizana wanilipe hawakunilipa, nikaachana nayo. I struggled for 2 years. I ended up going to a Bible school. So I went to a Bible school, finished, and I told myself, sikai Nakuru tena. Nikarudi Nairobi. Stayed with my uncle for many months, 8 months. Then I went to KTN as an intern. So I got to radio. Radio Maisha, mimi niliingia tu kama reporter wa kawaida. Radio is fun. Radio is good. I cannot equate radio with TV. Now that I've been doing TV for the last 4 years, I cannot equate. There is no comparison. Radio in town. And then we had very good bosses at Radio Maisha who grew us. They were tough on us. Called Wellington Nyongesa was my boss. Ni wale watu wa kukusukuma mpaka in 3 months you're so good. He pushed us. Wellington pushed us. And a friend of mine called Hadija Bubakar. There's people who trained me how to read news. The radio experience was dope. By the time I was leaving there after 5 years, niliingia nikiwa just a presenter. I left as a creative producer. As a reporter, and I was I was doing current affairs and politics. I was a creative producer. I had my own show that was Yaucheshin. I was a news producer. I was a news editor. I was a radio presenter. By the time I was leaving, even the ear for music had changed because of the show I heard. So hata music leo kaniambia nikuchagulie for good voice, good music for your station, I'll still do that. Beyond that, they trained me how to do adverts. So Radio Maisha nilitoka na I left with so many skills. And one day I went for an interview for BBC as a man top CG 10. I eventually didn't get that job. And I asked why I didn't get the job. They told me you didn't have the TV experience that we wanted. It was a radio job, but they needed somebody with TV experience. And I told myself, I have to get TV experience. For me to do anything bigger with my life, I have to get TV experience. What did I do? I left Radio Maisha. By the grace of God, in a few months after that interview, I was called for Inoro TV. And that is how I started. I had never done TV before, except Kole, ile ya practice. Kole, my projects. And so, naambiwa niende nikasome Kikuyu. And so I went. We were, the people who were interviewed, I think 300. 60 people were left, eventually 22. In all those interviews, I was number one. All of them. Eventually, 6 of us were employed. Among the 6, I was number one. And among the people who were there, some of them were working for the same station, but I was number one. So I became a news anchor who never anchored. It's a sad story, but I never anchored. Well, I keep saying it happened. I'm glad, but I think, now that I'm an anchor, I think I am not the kind that loves just being on TV. I love telling stories. I know in my heart, I love telling stories. I'm at my best when I'm telling stories. So me, field work, I love it. Even now, because I'm a news editor, I sit at the desk most of the time and reading news. I love field work. Really, I still feel. This year I won an award, Ajay, top journalist in this country. And it's a story I did from Baringo, Vita. So if you told me to choose between going on TV and going to the field, I'm going to the field. Because I believe the best journalists in this country, or wherever in the world, are good reporters. At first, you see, like I'm telling you, I do not crave to be on TV. Let's understand that. I'm a radio person. Me from the beginning, you look at me, you hear my voice, napenda radio. So all this while, I'm okay being behind the scenes. I was not those guys who, I have to be on TV. I have to be on TV by all means. No, you found me. I didn't crave for it. I wanted, but if it's not coming, I take my time. So all that time I was working there, I know, even my letter is news anchor. Even my pay is that of a news anchor. But because they were telling me there were processes, I am the kind who waits. I am very patient, by the way. I am sometimes I think I'm too patient, but I'm very patient. I can wait for something. Usiniambilie kitu fikirie nitasubiri. I'm very, very, very patient. And so this time I was being told, there are systems, you have to go through the system, or you have to go through this. Later on, I came to learn, kulikuwa na politics nyingi. So I said, maji ambayo shamwagika yazoleke. Funny enough, immediately I left Inoro TV, because in the time ya COVID, kimeumana, COVID imekuja Kenya, some of us have to be let go because the business were not doing well. I was let go. I got another job 8 days later by the grace of God at Switch TV. You know what I became? A news anchor. The first week ya kuingia, news anchor. The very first week. I know because bosses have told me from where I was working before. Sometimes they call you and they tell me, we didn't know you had all that. Because I'm a multilingual. I'll do English, I'll do Kiswahili, I'll do Kikuyu. All fluent. Mimi nitasoma Kikuyu kwa otokyo. Kikuyu vizuri sana. Tasoma Kiswahili vizuri. English nang'ang'ana kidogo, si sana, but si mbaya. Siwezi weka bunduki hapa nikose kusoma, because that's what I was doing at Switch TV, and I did that for 1.5 years. So yeah. The biggest lesson I've learned in media is patience. TV. To be on TV, unlike those days where your looks mattered so much, it was because they're selling your face. Nowadays, TV is about content. If you don't have content, you can't go on air. Because nowadays, I have a show every Monday that is immediately after a bulletin. a live show and you are interviewing big politicians in this country, big newsmakers. I've interviewed the president twice. And you cannot interview our president if you're not smart. I'm telling you that for a fact, because our president is super smart. He will see the question before you even formulate it. And he will start answering you before you even finish. He will counter, he has information, he is so well versed with his job. He's so well versed. And that is the caliber of the guest you're supposed to interview. And so beyond the looks, that I think the looks go for 10%, it's a content. The biggest lesson I've learned as a journalist in these years that I've served from 2018 to now, when I started as a TV journalist, you have to be extra smart and read wide. You'll be on air. I have a bulletin of 1 hour, and I'll tell you, as a desk editor, break that bulletin. It's breaking news. Go on air. Go on air. Unfortunately for you, kama huko unajua what was happening. So say somebody has died today, and you have no idea, no clue about them. And the reason we are breaking with that news is he is a newsmaker. That is the reason we are breaking. Tell me you don't know about them. Our former president, Mwai Kibaki, died while I was at the desk. I can tell you, we were 3 of us. By that time I was working with TV47. There were 3 of us. It was a normal day, off day, wase wengi hawako. 3 of us tumepatikana, Kibaki ameaga dunia. And I remember I had at one point to stop everything, go to the studio. Because at least I grew up in high school during the reign of the president, and I'm a political reporter. I have a lot of information about Kibaki. I remember his ministers. I remember the 2010 constitution. I remember the referendum. So, even mambo ya TV lazima ukue. You have a lot of information. You cannot be the one who is being informed by the viewers. You have to inform. So TV, the biggest lesson I've learned is broaden your mind and read wide and interact. There's something we call social capital. You are as good as your last guest. That is what I tell myself. I know in media we say you are as good as your last story. For me, as your last guest. So every time you're thinking, my show on Monday, whom am I going to bring? What is big news this week? Who is the cream of that news? I have to get that person. It's a lot of hard work. So there's social capital, there's a lot of networking. Can you get me this? Can I get this? Can you come to my show? You have to create a lot of friendship with those people in government, in opposition. It's a lot of work. But you have to be very, very patient at the end of the day. I think my lowest moments, of course, when the Noro job came to an end, it was not as low because in 8 days I had a new job. I think the worst was when Switch TV closed, because I was the head of the newsroom and I had almost 30 reporters, producers, news anchors under me. And these were young people. My average age at Switch TV was 22, and that was my newsroom, and I was the head of that newsroom. And then the company decided to close the TV station. The unfortunate bit is it was very abrupt. I knew I had trained by my guys, and I was very tough. I can be very military. I was very tough. This ni Gen Z. Gen Z. Oh, Gen Z are lazy. I keep hearing that. But the Gen Zs I heard, I found them with the same character. By the time they were leaving, they were not Gen Zs. They were thinking more like millennials. Because I was very tough to them, and I told them the industry does not have time to kubembeleza you. This industry haina time ya kukwambia Gen Z, haina time ya kukubembeleza. It doesn't. And so I became very tough because I had seen where I was coming from and how hard it is to make in this industry. And so I had prepared them, grilled them. I see you're good enough, I take you on air. I see you're growing, I become a reporter. You come as an intern, I put you on desk, you start producing news. I grew, I had producers, I had news editors, I had anchors. And when the station closed, I think that was my lowest moment. Because now you are no longer, it's not about you. 30 young people who are starting their careers in the middle of every media house is like firing people. Where are they going to go? Some of them were very young mothers. Some of them, they were in the process of marrying. Some of them had just gone back to school because I have a job. They've gone back to school. And so you have 30 people who are looking up to you for direction. I think that has been, I felt we should have been given more time to just be able to transition them to the next life, but we only had 21 days to close the station. These are the same people you're telling, go on air, and they know, they're fired, they have been fired. And the station has been closed. So that one, I struggled with that a lot. I knew my job because by the grace of God, my networking and all that, I had gotten a job. It's a job I had interviewed months before. And so I was in conversation with them, and I'm looking at my guys and I'm thinking, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? By the grace of God, 90% of them have been absorbed in different media houses in Kenya. K24, TV47, Citizen TV, NTV, KTN, they are everywhere. And so I'm so proud that I was able, even though they thought, when every time I would get in, they would keep quiet, I know, and ulikuwa ananiita military man ameingia. But because of the way I had trained them, and I knew every single time I was being asked, do you know about this? I would tell them, give them the job, watapiga kazi. My guys, wherever they are, they work so hard, even today, because I'll tune to this TV station, I see my guys. I tune to this TV station, I see my guy. Those guys are so resilient, and they're so good at what they do. So I'm proud that at least 90% of them, they're somewhere. So glad. Some of them, tuko nao hapa kwetu NTV, so glad. What are some of the things that I ensure I'm doing? It's remembering where you're coming from. I've never wanted people to tell me I'm a celebrity. Never. And I tell people, I don't believe I'm a celebrity. Celebrities are the people who have brought a lot of joy to this country. For me, the Kipchoges are the celebrities of this country. Our athletes, our footballers who play for the country. You know me, I work as a journalist, I get paid. Yes, I inform about their stories, I tell people about, how the countries, but those people are doing it, well, sometimes for themselves, but majority of the time for the country. Nothing else. Wakishika bendera hivyo, hawashiki yao ya home kwao ati kaunti ya Kakamega ama Vihiga ama wapi. Hapana, anashika bendera ya nchi. So for them, they're working for the country. For me, most of the time, is I want to tell stories about people, but also about me. So I tend to feel that we are just known people. Privileged by the grace of God to be somewhere that most people know you. The other thing I do is remembering that I am doing a job like any other job. There is nothing unique with this job. It's just that most people know you, but there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing unique with kazi ya Wachi. There's nothing. Because I've done all those jobs. Mimi nimefanya kazi ya MJ. Nimeuza soda, na si soda Coca-Cola, softer soda. Nimeuza juja. Na baiskeli, and you get a profit of 12 shillings per crate. Na ukiuza nyingi sana ni 6 per day. Nimefanya kazi ya mjengo. Nimetembea mguu. So I see the person who is anashona viatu. Kazi yake na kazi yangu hazina tofauti. It's a job like any other job. It's just that you know me because I'm on TV. So I've never allowed, and it's something I learned from a girl called Lynn Washira. She works with the BBC. One day, Lynn Washira ameingia matatu. Mimi nilikuwa Radio Maisha. Lynn Washira ameingia kwa matatu. Ambia, Lynn, uko kwa TV. Ugogopi? Niambia Fred. Hao watu wote kwa matatu, kuna mtu anakulipia nyumba? Kuna mtu anajua maisha yako? Live your life. Never allow this thing called fame to get into your head. Well, I knew because I'm coming from a background of mimi nimejisomesha, I've struggled to be in this Nairobi. So I knew those things, they don't get me easily. But when I remember those words she told me, watu wote kwa gari, kuna mtu anakulipia nyumba. When you remember those words and you know, these things huisha. And you are not better than any other Kenyan. You are not. I am telling you for a fact. Me at my workplace and wherever I've gone, I am the kind that speak to everyone. Why? I treat people like human beings. I'm a human being, privileged to be known by people. Mama kwetu Shago, nimemwambia mara kadhaa, Mama Maina, unajua wewe ndio ulifanya nikuwe mwanahabari wewe. Yeah, she's from our church. We met several. I've told her, but I keep telling God to bless her with long life, you know, because why not for her? I was not a poor student. It's just that I grew up with a lot of anger, a lot of disappointments. I did have a father, and I think for boys that affects them a lot. It's a whole different conversation. And so I grew up with a lot of self-doubt, low self-esteem. I didn't know it was there. I had depression when I was 23. That is when I started discovering, oh, these things, they go way, way, way back. And so the fact that she told me I was good, was 11 years. I was good at that age. I changed the perspective of my life. So, and that is why I'm very keen with what I say. I'm very keen. Because I know with my words, I can change your life. I mean, I can meet you today and tell you, Manze, there is a girl who came to Switch TV, just an intern from University of Nairobi. I don't know from where. I sat her down and I told her, every time I see you, I see a lady who worked for CGTN, formerly CCTV, and I think you're going to be that lady. Today, she's one of the best presenters I know on TV. I can't say who, but she's one of the best. So I'm very careful with what I say, because I know I can cause life and death. The Bible says life and death is in your tongue. It's true. It's absolutely true. What you say matters to so many people. So it's important even how you carry yourself and how what you say to people, say it with a lot of thinking. What will that do to them? So Mama Maina changed my life, and I'm grateful. Few words that changed my life. People don't know how difficult it is for children who are brought up by single parents. I see young girls in this town saying, mimi nitapata tu mtoto na huyo mwanaume na nimwache. It's the highest level of selfishness. You're thinking about yourself and not thinking about the child. It affected me big time because of this one thing. Identity is never given by a woman. Identity is given by a man. A child becomes what they become and the way they believe themselves from a man, not from a woman. That's science. And so by the age of 13, a boy needs a lot of direction from the father. Because they're in that teenhood, they need a lot of direction. But before the 13 years, it's so critical for a child to have both parents. It's so critical. And not to have the presence of a father and a mother is so important to build who they want to be. I grew up without a father, and it affected my self-esteem, and I didn't know it affected me until I was around 23 when I had full-blown depression, identity crisis. It will hit you if there is no father figure around you. And so what I tell young girls, please, even if by bad luck you end up being a single parent, please, by all means, find a father figure, either your brother or your uncle or somebody close to you, a friend, a male figure who can be able to direct that child. They need it. Why? 70% of the people in prison today are children from such families, dysfunctional families. It tells you a lot. It gets to a place where you don't care because no one is showing you the way. And so what I've tried to do for me is being present for my children. Mimi hata tukiwa na hii interview yenu nafikiria kuhusu mtoto nilileta kwa nyumba. It's my off day and I'm just thinking I need to spend more time with that child. I need to spend more time. My second born, I didn't spend a lot of time with her because I was sick. I had several surgeries. But what I'm trying to do now is spend more time with her, because it's not just spending time, quality time with them, being present, working with them, talking to them, showing them the way, so that you have full-grown, healthy children. Otherwise, what you're going to have is a child like yourself. Mimi nilikuwa na depression, nilinigonga mpaka sikuwa naweza kusoma script. By the grace of God, hata ni wife yangu alinisaidia kuanza kuandika composition. By that time she was my girlfriend. Naandika composition na ananimakia. Depression imenigonga sawa sawa. So I would advise any young men. I know young men in this town are engaged in sex. Like it's heaven and earth for them. I mean, nowadays people don't see a big deal. People having sex like, I don't know how to call it. But you know what? If a child comes out of your relationship, take care of that child. Take care of that child. Mungu halali. Na Mungu si athmani. Mungu si athmani. It will find you. Kitakuramba. Kitakuramba. It's very important for young men to be responsible. Just be responsible for your work. The work of your body. There's so many people, young people, who are moving away from faith and they don't think God is important. I am where I am because of God. You can work so hard and be successful but empty. I'm a very fulfilled person. I think so. Because, look, my background does not allow me to be on TV. For real. It does not. It does not. It does not. I see the guys we are with in the office, Alliance, Starehe, I went to Bavuni. We have top cream in that newsroom. By the grace of God, haitambui. And of course, a lot of hard work. But it's good to trust in God. And especially when you're young, it will differentiate between yourself and so many people who give up along the way. I have 4 of my classmates, high school classmates, who have died. 2 of them out of drinking. I see them and I think, kama singeokoka ningekuwa hapo. Probability ya kuwa hapo very high. But I didn't pass vizuri, and God has allowed me to have a lot of patience, because God says He's long suffering, very patient. God is patient with people. And I think because of that, I've grown to be very patient. I can be patient for something. Mimi nitagojea for so many years. There's so many people who give up along the way. But when you have God, there's something that keeps you going. So I'll tell people, anything else, beyond everything else, trust God.